Omo a Guru Vajradhara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bar Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bar Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Timu Shasane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimu Nishasane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dāgī jētsūn lāma tujē jē nyamdā dālā tujē siksu sō gyēbē shēsān dālā tēndū sō uyōn sūngē nāwā tsēdū sō sējē nīngnē sōwā dēbē tsē dēchēn kōrlō wēsū lēkshū nē yīlā sāmbē dēdē mā lūpā gēmē lhūngē drūbrā jīngē lō Sonye sodan dikdun shabetse dungi namke yinsu lekshune Labchen tsonye yonsu tsobadan chera nyedun chanra jingelo Chanchu bharge ninsen tukun tu nyu peme siudru lekshune Chanchu drube gegen kunshishi tungen dela drubra jingelo Dagi lona chola chobadan chimi samchur ngemba shiwa Chodan timbe dede malupa beme lhungi drubra jingelo Dorna tengne tsira tamche dan techi pardo negav tamche tu Rese kyamne lama kele me tukche chingi dala siksu sol Gongyab drewe nyamda dachala chetsun lame tuche rabgongne Kodan sungi nawa dralme tu nyamsu nyongwe kesan tobrasho Kewa kundu yanda lama dan drame cheki pela longche chi Sadan lamge yunder dorje change kopa nyurto basho Hakyuke akudan dagi Pakyuke sondandaki Pakyuke atudandaki Yeteyerme çiktu jingilo Pakyuke kudan dagilu Pakyuke sonda dagilan Pakyuke tudan dagi Yerme çiktu jingilo Makyuke kudan dagilu Makyuke sonda dagilan Makyuke tudan dagi yerme chikto jingialo. Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamunye Swaha. Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamunye Swaha. Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamunye Swaha. Sangye chedan soge chanam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonamgi drola pinchira sangye druparasho. Sangye chedan soge chanam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonamgi drola pinchira sangye druparash. Sangye chedan tsogi chonam la jancho pardo dani kyabs dagi cheshe gibe sonamgi drola pinchira sangye druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Good morning. So, first of all, I am very happy to start today these teachings on the 51 mental factors, which is basically how our mind functions according to Abhidharma. And this makes me very happy for different reasons. But one of them, it is because when I first received these teachings in India, it was a very important moment. There are moments in our life that we can say there was a before and after. And for me, this was one of these moments. I can divide my own life before I learned the functions of the mind and after. It changed my way of perception of the world. It changed my way of relating to reality and to myself and to everything. And I believe this is something which is very important. So I always had a special connection with these teachings. And when I went to request these teachings from my guru in India, Geshe Tupten, and I asked him and he said, yes, I can give you these teachings, but have you already memorized the 51 mental factors? And I said, no. I said, first memorize them, then come back. So then I went and memorized them. It's not much, it's actually very little bit. Semjung and like this we go. It's like we made on verses. No? For example, no, this like I remember. So I memorized these verses where there are all the 51 mental factors, then I went back and he gave me these teachings. And as I was receiving these teachings, it was like making clear in my mind things. It was like so powerful for me. Because there are two ways of understanding reality. One way is where we understand the world better. This is where we go, for example, when we learn more about impermanence and interdependence, and we understand more how reality exists around us. And there, the other aspect is learning more about our mind. And when we understand better how our mind functions, then this makes us to understand better how everything works. Because we relate to reality through our mind. So for me, it was very eye-opening the first time. But sometimes it happens that we have a big enthusiasm about something and then we share with someone else and the other person don't get the same enthusiasm, no? So I don't know if it's my own personal thing or if something that everybody may like it. But for me, it was a very important teaching, and that's why I'm very happy to share it. I'm very happy to be able to have this moment with you. Also for myself, all the time I go back to it, it really gives me a lot of joy. Okay? So we have this, and also happy that we do this in 7 days, because we have 7 days to go through the 51 mental factors. And it's a good time to do it. I think we will be able to do it without any problem. Okay? So, first thing, we will go through the praise, and which was written by Yongzing Yeshe Gyältsän. Yongzing Yeshe Gyältsän was a very important Lama from Tashilhunpo. And many texts that we follow nowadays were written by him, like the commentary on the Lojong, on mind training, the commentary on the Guru Puja, and the commentary on Lamrim. Many texts were written by him. And he had a beautiful text about the 51 mental factors, which was the text that I studied when I did. So I have prepared some notes on the 51 mental factors, which is the definition of each one of them. So we prepared this little booklet, which is good for everyone to get in order to be able to follow correctly. No? So we will start with the praise. And for me, it's very important always to start with the praise. All the most important texts also start with the praise. And the reason why we start with the praise is one of the reasons is in order to remember our teachers. Remember Buddha Shakyamuni and all the great masters that came after him. If there is anything that I can share with you, is because I received from my own gurus, that have received from their gurus, then like this we go back up to Buddha Shakyamuni. So this is also important for us to remember the gurus, to request their blessings in order for us to be able to understand, in this case, the 51 mental factors, and to be able to put it into practice and to generate this humility also. So there is no better words in this context to make a praise than the words that the great master Yongzing Yeshe Gyältsän he did. So I have just translated the verses in Tibetan from the text, okay? So let's go through it. It says here, page number 7. Tukje shugi tsonye tarchinte dribche mumba sangshi chokunken nigi sikang drola salzepa by accomplishing the 2 accumulations through the power of compassion, the obscure darkness is cleared and all phenomena are known. Whatever is seen by you, you make it clear to my greatest. Munindra, Lord of the sages, unsurpassable refuge, to you I pay homage. So this is the first homage, is the homage to Buddha Shakyamuni. Because the teachings of 51 mental factors is coming from the teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni. So first of all, we pay homage to Buddha. And here, I get very touched by this beautiful way of putting so much meaning in such a clear way with verses. No? So it says, the first verse is talking about the path. So it's saying, "O you, Buddha Shakyamuni, before becoming a Buddha, through the power of your great compassion, you were able," so first you generated compassion, bodhicitta, towards all sentient beings, and through the power of the compassion, through the power of bodhicitta, you have accomplished the 2 accumulation, which is the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom. So you have completed the 2 accumulations through the power of your compassion, which means you have completed the path to enlightenment. And by completing these 2 accumulations, you have eliminated, you have cleared away the worst, the most obscure of all darkness, which is one's own ignorance. You have cleared away all your ignorance. And by clearing away your ignorance, you have seen all phenomena just as they are. You have been able to see all reality in a clear way. So the obscure of darkness is cleared and all phenomena are known. By that, then, after showing once having reached enlightenment, whatever is seen by you, you make it clear to migrators. Once you have seen all phenomena in a clear way, you have made it clear to other sentient beings, showing the path to each one of them, of how to reach enlightenment, which means what you have seen, the others cannot see, but you make it clear to them by explaining them what you have seen and how they can see it also. So, Munindra, which we say in Tibetan, Tube Wangpo, which is Tuba means capacity, is the one showing the path. Wangpo means the one that has this ability. So you, the powerful one that shows the path, the powerful, capable one, which is Munindra, Lord of the sages, from all the... actually, Munindra also can be translated as Lord of the sages, which means from all the capable one, you are the most capable of all. So Munindra, Lord of the sages, unsurpassable refuge. From all the refuges that we can have, there is no refuge higher than you. To you I pay homage. So this is the first homage to Buddha Shakyamuni. Okay. Then after come the homage to the other lineage gurus. Okay. So the next verse is praise to Buddha Maitreya. The reason why we have the praise to Buddha Maitreya is because in the Mahayana teachings we have two main lineages of the teachings. Start with Buddha Shakyamuni, then we have two main commentaries on Buddha's teachings. No? And the one was given by Buddha Maitreya, the other by Manjushri. So, these two lineages, it's called the extensive lineage and the profound lineage. The extensive lineage is giving more emphasis to the part of love, compassion, generosity, morality, concentration, and so on. And the profound lineage is giving mainly emphasis to the development of wisdom. Okay? And as we have represented here, for example, we have in the center, there is this blue, let's call like a window with Buddha, Kshobhya and Mamaki. Then above, on the center of the Gompa, the main part, we have on top, there is Buddha Vajradhara, which is how Buddha Shakyamuni manifested the teachings of the Vajrayana teachings. Okay? It's called also the Sambhogakaya form of Buddha Shakyamuni. Then we have on the two sides, on the right side is Buddha Maitreya, on the left side is Buddha Manjushri holding the sword, okay? Then together with Buddha Maitreya is Asanga, and together with Manjushri is Nagarjuna. This is showing the two lineages. It's showing Manjushri and Nagarjuna, is showing the profound lineage, and then Maitreya and Asanga is showing the extensive lineage. Okay, so here we have the praise to Buddha Maitreya, because these teachings that we will follow, they come from the teachings that come from the profound lineage. So let's just first read the verse as it says. Chik tu drola champal harzepe tusum kundu chamgun shetrapa gyawa gyatsa mibang gombola ningne gube yigi chagiton. Unique love for migrators, which is embodied as a deity, renowned through the three times as the Lord of Love, to the invincible protector, regent of the victorious, with respect from my heart, I prostrate with my mind. So, first of all, it says that unique love for migrators, which means the pure love for sentient beings, which is embodied in the form of a deity. Buddha Maitreya represents the embodiment of the love of all Buddhas. Maitri, in Sanskrit, means love itself. So, Buddha Maitreya is the embodiment of the love of all Buddhas. Okay. Renowned to the three times as the Lord of Love. The way how it's the name through which you have been known is called Champa Gompo in Tibetan, which means the Lord of Love, which is Buddha Maitreya. To the invincible protector, regent of the victorious, you who are the most excellent protector that can protect sentient beings from suffering, which has also double meaning here. Who can protect sentient beings from suffering? The Buddhas, but it's also love. By developing love, we eliminate the causes of our own suffering. That's why it's the best protection for our own suffering is to develop love ourselves. So, invincible protector, regent of the victorious. The reason why Buddha Maitreya is called the regent of the victorious, victorious are all the Buddhas, the ones that have victory over their defilements. And it is said when Buddha Shakyamuni came to this world, he was the regent on the Pure Land with all the other Buddhas. He was the main regent. And then he left Buddha Maitreya on his place. And then that's why Buddha Maitreya will be the next Buddha to come to this world after Buddha Shakyamuni came. That's why it's called the regent of the victorious. With respect from my heart, I prostrate with my mind. So with deeply, from the depths of my heart, I prostrate, I pay respect with body, speech, and mind. Now, the connection of Buddha Maitreya as being the one that comes from the extensive lineage, I like just to give a brief explanation about how this lineage came about. Okay, it was in India, in the time of the monastery of Nalanda. There was one very important master. His name was Asanga. Okay, Togme. Asanga. And Asanga, the one without any doubt, it means the meaning of his name, or Tokpa. Tokpa means obstruction, actually. The one with no obstruction. Asanga. He was a very well-known master with a lot of knowledge and experience, but he felt that he had not yet deeply realized great love for all sentient beings. So he left the monastery and he went to meditate on the caves. So he did 3 years meditation retreat on developing great love, on Buddha of Maitreya. But after 3 years of meditation, he had no signs of any realizations. So he thought, better I go back to the monastery. I am of more benefit in the monastery than staying here by myself meditating and having no realizations. So while he was coming down, he first met with an old woman. And she had a small container full of metal needles. And then she had some metal sticks and a piece of cotton. And she was rubbing with the cotton on the metal stick. And then he asked her, my lady, what are you doing? And she said, I am consuming the metal stick, like was the size more or less like a finger. I am consuming the metal stick in order to make needles. And he thought, wow, what a perseverance, what an effort, If she can do this to make needles, what is 2 years of my life to develop great love and compassion? It's nothing. So he went back to meditate. Then another 3 years of meditation, total of 6 years, no result. So he said, okay, now I go back. Then on the way back, he saw one point where there was this very hard stone, but there was a hole in the stone, which was created by one drop of water that was coming in a consistent way. The water was coming, tung, tung. Again and again, years and years of this water dropping, it made a hole in the stone. So he said, wow, if something so light as a drop of water can make a hole in something so hard as a stone, what are 6 years of my life to soften this hard mind of selfishness and develop great love? It's nothing. So he went back to meditate. After 3 years, no result. So 9 years in total, he was coming down from the mountain, and then suddenly he saw a big wall of stone. And on a corner, there was a bird nest. And he saw that whenever the birds went in and out of the nest, they would go near the stone and they were touching with the tip of their feathers on the stone. So by touching with the tip of the feathers so many times, again and again, for generations and generations of birds, slowly it consumed the whole stone. So the whole big wall of stone had a hole on it, like a big consumed part, by the feathers passing on it. And he said, wow, look at that. If something so gentle as the tip of the feather of a bird can shape something so hard as a stone wall? What are 9 years of my life to shape my mind of selfishness into a mind of love and compassion? So he went back to meditate again. Another 3 years passed, no result. So total of 12 years. Sometimes we get upset because after 1 week of meditation we get no result, no? So Buddha took my Asanga took 12 years. So after the 12 years, he went down and then he said, okay, this time no excuse, I'm going to stop meditating here, I'm going back to the monastery, I'm more benefit there. So when he arrived down, before reaching the village, the first sentient being that he saw was an old dog. This old dog we call in Tibetan Kiking Gyao. It was an old sick dog. So this dog was old and was very sick. The dog had somewhere one big infection, and this infection was full of worms. And then he saw the dog, and in the moment that he saw the dog, he had so much love for the dog. And he wanted the dog to be free from every aspect of suffering, and the dog to be happy, and from the most momentary suffering of the pain up to the suffering of samsara, he wanted the dog to be completely free from suffering. And he went to help the dog to take out the worms. So he went to see where it was hurting. And when he saw that the dog was full of worms, he had the same love and compassion for the worms also. And he said, okay, now how can I help him? I need to take away the worms, but I need to I need to take care of the worms also. He had the same love and compassion for the worms. So he said, if I take away the worms with my hand, I will hurt them. And I will have no place where to put them. So instead, what he said, okay, I need to have a place which is safe for the worms to stay. So he took a knife and he cut a part of his own leg, where there is more flesh. So he took and he cut a part of his leg with flesh and he placed it to put the worms there. And then after that he went to take the worms. So he thought, if I take the worms with my hand is too rough, I will hurt them. Instead, I need to take with something that is more soft, not to hurt the worms. And he thought, okay, I can take them with my tongue. And this is not said in the story, but it's my own interpretation. Even though he had all the compassion, still it was disgusting. That's why he closed his eyes, because the stories say he closed his eyes, And what's the other reason for closing the eyes after then feeling some disgust, So even with the whole compassion of the world, he felt some disgust. So he closed his eyes. He went in the direction of the dog. And as he was getting more and more near, he could never meet at the dog, and he fell with his face on the floor. Then he looked around to see the dog. He couldn't find the dog, and he looked in front, and there was Buddha Maitreya. And the first question he made to Buddha Maitreya is, where is the dog? And he said, I was the dog. And he said, then where were you all these years? I was meditating, asking you for you to come to bless me, to guide me all these years, and I couldn't see you all this time. He said, I was always there with you, but you could not see me. So my interpretation of this, it is that first of all, Buddha Maitreya is the embodiment of love of all Buddhas. When Buddha Maitreya say, I was always there with you, means we have always the potential of love inside of us. All of us, all the time. But to develop the real true love, it was developed through the sick dog and the worms. What does that mean? That we need to develop true love through the love of one sentient being. It's not, when we talk about true love, it's not a generalized love for all sentient beings. It is through the love. When we have true love for one sentient being, this naturally opens our heart to love all sentient beings on a true way. So, by opening his heart and by loving that dog, he loved the worms, he loved everyone else also. So he trained himself for a long time. This is also showing that when we train on love, the real love we develop when loving someone, not only when meditating about it. So that's why it's said also that sentient beings are so precious to us, because it's only through them that we can develop true love and compassion. So, then at this moment, he took Buddha Maitreya to his back, And he took Buddha Maitreya around the village to bless everyone. But no one could see Buddha Maitreya, only him. So at this moment, after that, Buddha Maitreya took him to the Pure Land of Tushita. And by taking him to the Pure Land of Tushita, he gave him teachings. So he stayed one whole morning in Tushita. But when he came back to planet Earth, one morning of Tushita were 50 years of Earth. 50 years have passed. So he transcribed the teachings he received from Buddha Maitreya, which are called the 5 dharmas of Maitreya. It's called Chamcha Denga, the 5 dharmas of Maitri, the 5 dharmas of Buddha Maitreya, that are said to be taught by Buddha Maitreya, but who wrote them was a Sangha. And the most well-known teachings from these 5 is called the Abhisamaya Lankara. The Abhisamaya Lankara, which is translated as the ornament of clear realization, is a commentary on Buddha's sutra, which is called the Prajna Paramita, the sutra on the perfection of wisdom, which is a sutra that have 3 versions. There is a long, middle, and short version. The long version has 100,000 verses. The middle version has 20,000 verses. The short version has 8,000 verses. And then there is also the extremely short version, which is the Heart Sutra, which is very few verses actually. Okay? So then this text, which is this teaching, which is called the Abhisamaya Lankara, is the explanation, is the commentary on the Sutra of Perfection of Wisdom, but which put emphasis mainly in the part of developing love, compassion, and the whole gradual path to enlightenment. Okay? So this is the basis after for the teachings of Lamrim that we follow also. Okay? So from these teachings is where comes the lineage, which is we call the extensive lineage. Then there was Nagarjuna that wrote the commentary on the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, putting mainly focus on wisdom, on shunyata, on the correct view of reality, which is based on teachings that he received from Buddha Manjushri. Okay? So this is where the 2 lineages started. Both of them come from Buddha Shakyamuni, but then they divide one moment. There were one emphasis mainly on love and compassion. Also there is wisdom, but the emphasis in love and compassion. And the other, the emphasis is in wisdom. So this we call the extensive lineage and the profound lineage, that we have both of them in our teachings. Okay? So these teachings are come mainly from the extensive lineage. That's why we praise Buddha Maitreya. Okay? Well, let's go on with the other verses then. So, the next verses refer to the lineage gurus. So, in page number 8, the next verse refers to what are called in Tibetan Gyendruk Chokni, which is called the 2 excellent and the 6 ornaments, which was in the monastery of Nalanda. There were 8 main masters from India that commented on Buddha's teachings and explained Buddha's teachings, and it's from their teachings that after came to Tibet. Okay, so in our lineage from India, it passes through these 8 great masters, of which 2 were the most excellent, which are Asanga and Nagarjuna. And then there are another 6 important masters, which are called the 6 ornaments. We have them represented in 2 places here in the Gompa. One is in the center, where we have in the center Buddha Vajradhara. Then we have Maitreya and Manjushri. Then if we start counting on each side, we can put 4 on each side, which is the first 2 is the 2 excellent, which is Asanga and Nagarjuna. Then if we take from each side, we take another 3 masters. These are the 6 ornaments that we have. Okay, so there, for example, we have the 3 ornaments, and then we have the next one is Atisha, then Panchen Losang Chogi Gyaltsen. Then there is the disciple, then there is on the other side, we have Gyawa Ensapa, and so on. We have other masters of the lineage. Okay, here on this side, again, we have the 3 main masters, and then after that we have also Panchen Sampotashi, and then Shantideva is added also here. Okay, So this is the masters of our lineage that we have. We have them also in one tanka, which is, if we look near to the door, we have 3 images with the Buddha in the middle. Then the first one is showing the 8 bodhisattvas. The second one, the 16 arhats. The third one is showing the 2 excellent and the 8 and the 6 ornaments. Okay? From the left to the right, the third image is Lama Tsongkhapa in the middle. In the top, then there is Penchen Losang Chögyä Gyältsän, Gyalwa Gendun Drup, the first Dalai Lama, the one that founded Tashilhunpo Monastery, the guru of Rinpoche's guru, Rinpoche's previous life. And then in the center, Buddha Shakyamuni. And then around, there are what is called the 2 ornaments and the 2 excellent and the 6 ornaments, which are the 8 main masters of our lineage. Okay? So here it's making reference to these masters, as it says. Dewar Shekpa Nigi Lundenchin Sabdan Gyaltsän Luk Sampo Salze Shingda Cheshet Rab Trakpa Zamling Gendru Choni La Chatsel. You have been prophesied. You have been prophesied by the Sugata, the one gone to bliss himself. Because it says that in Buddha teachings in the sutras, there are prophecies about these 8 masters. Okay, the profound and vast pure traditions of the capable one. By making them clear, you are renowned as the great chariot way openers. To the 6 ornaments and the 2 excellent ones of this world, I prostrate. So, you have been known as those, it's called the great chariot way openers, which refers like if we imagine one road, and someone can make a beautiful road like Buddha did. Buddha paved a beautiful road for us to go to enlightenment. But at some point, what happened is that trees fall on this road, and it gets blocked by many things, so it's not easy to follow this road anymore. It's not clear the path anymore. So, what these great masters did is that they opened this road again. They took away the trees that were fallen, they fixed the holes, they make it clear again for others to follow. So this is why it is given this name to them, because at the time they were those that commented on Buddha's teachings and made Buddha's teachings very clear for us. So we have access to Buddha's teachings through their teachings. Okay, that's why they reopened the path for us that was already created before. So by making what clear, by making the vast and the profound lineages of the Buddha, of the capable one, which is Buddha, by making them clear to us, you are renowned as the great chariot way openers. To the 6 ornaments and the 2 excellent ones of this world, I prostrate. The next verse is to Lama Tsongkhapa, and it says, Kanre rawe korwe yuljongdir, Dögyu gondre dabtung gebetsal sartu shela gyawa nimadang tsungpar ngawa jamgun lamar dum. In this land surrounded by a range of snow mountains, a garden blossoming with 1,000 petals of sutras and tantras and commentaries is refreshed, making you like the son of the victorious. To the praiseworthy Guru, gentle protector Tsongkhapa, I pay homage. So, the land surrounded by a range of snow mountains is Tibet. So he's referring then Tibet. All the teachings that arrived in Tibet were like a garden. But this garden was refreshed by the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa, by making the teachings clear. So Lama Tsongkhapa became just like the sun of Buddha teachings, like a sun shining, making clear all Buddha's teachings and refreshing this garden of the sutras, tantras, and commentaries that were present in Tibet. So to this great master, I pay homage. The next verse pays homage to one's own root guru. And it says, Kangetin le öser tongsamgi lam santawe lomik selzepa jetsun lama nibor jebewe dagning pemosindro tak to shu. By seeing just a ray of light of your spiritual actions, you make the mind eyes for seeing the pure path clear. Venerable Guru, light that shines like the sun, please remain always at the center of the lotus at my heart. So it refers saying, even if I can only see, like here it takes the Guru as the sun. Even if I can only see one rays of the sun, I cannot see all your holy actions. I can see just one rays of the sun. I can understand one teaching. I can see one part of your holy actions. But just by seeing one rays of your spiritual actions, one rays of light of your spiritual actions, by that rays of light, you make the mind's eyes for seeing the path clear. By your teachings, by that ray of light, you make my mind to be able to see the path to enlightenment. So Venerable Guru, who is like the sun, like light that shines like the sun, you are just like the lights shining of the sun, please remain always in the center of the lotus of my heart. This is showing also that why is giving the example of the sunlight, because I am taken by my own ignorance. And I cannot see reality. I cannot see the path. The Guru shows me the path by the teachings of the Buddha. He shows me the path and he helps me to see what normally I cannot see. And I can only see one part of what he's showing, but that's already enough to open my eyes. So I praise homage to Guru, to my own root Guru, and I request you, please always stay inseparable from me. Please always stay in the lotus at my heart. Okay. The next verse refers to the commitment of giving the teachings. And this verse, it's as everything by Yongzing Yeshe Gyältsän, very well written. And but I think that it adapts more to me than to him. Okay. The verse says, Dr. Tam Gishenla Mi Penyang, Ranlo Lekshe Kompa Pelchirdan, Shenge Kulchir Semdan Semjung tsül Chongo Shungshi Chungse Triwarcha. Even though words by someone like me are of no benefit for others, to increment the familiarization of my mind with the excellent teachings, and having been requested by others about the way of the mind and the mental factors, I will briefly write about it in accordance with the Abhidharma works. So here, Yongzing Yeshe Gyältsän is saying, even though my words are of no benefit, because I have nothing new to give, what I'm giving is just what was already taught by Buddha Shakyamuni. Mine own words are not of benefit. But I write this text mainly because I want to familiarize myself with the teachings, and because I was requested by others to explain it. So that's why I'm going to write about the mind and the mental factors in accordance with the teachings of Buddha of the Abhidharma. So I could adapt this verse very much for myself today by saying, even though words by someone like me are of no benefit for others, to increment the familiarization of my mind with the excellent teachings, and having been requested by others about the way of the mind and the mental factors, I will briefly explain about the mind and the mental factors in accordance with the teachings of the Abhidharma. No? One thing, it's very truthful of what is here. I myself, I have received much more benefit teaching others than others receiving the teachings. This is what I believe. Because by sharing the Dharma, this helps me to understand better and to familiarize my mind with the Dharma in a way that is incredible. I understood many things by teaching much more than by studying. So it's very truthful that I truly believe I am the one that is mostly being benefited here, Even sometimes came to my mind, who knows who is who? Maybe you are all manifestations of Buddha, manifesting as someone that need the Dharma in order to help me to learn my own path by teaching the Dharma. Who knows? No? But the fact is that there is great benefit on that. Okay? So we will go through the explanations of the mind and the mental factors in a brief way to try to understand it better. Okay. Now. Okay. We have done this part of the praise, which is very important because it's also by making the praise we connect to the lineage. We remember it's not something that I am not inventing anything. I am just trying to explain in the best way as I can what I received from my masters, my gurus, that have received from their gurus. And like this we go back up to Buddha Shakyamuni. Okay? And it's very important for us to remember and to connect with the lineage. This is something which is very important for all of us. Now, why do we need to learn about the mind and the mental factors? Okay. Why do we need to learn about the 51 mental factors? Again, I will take help from one verse of Yongzing Yeshe Gyältsän. Okay? And he says, Korde könyo malupa semle jungwa yinoshe tube sonrab leshepe lodrunam cho chenamgi semgi sangdi shebar che. The defects of samsara and the qualities of nirvana, without exception, derive from the mind, as said in Buddha's teachings. Those who have intelligence and discernment must give importance to knowing the secrets of the mind. Every conflict that exists in the world, if we start from the very personal conflicts, and we can look and analyze the conflicts that are in the family, the conflicts that are in the work, the conflicts that happen in the society, the international wars, whatever. There is not one conflict that is not starting in human's mind. The conflicts are coming from where? From selfishness, from ignorance, from unlimited attachment, unlimited desire, insatisfaction, hatred, and so on. Okay? And in the root is ignorance. So, there are many things that are done internationally to deal with conflicts, no? We have many meetings are done, how we can eliminate poverty, how we can take better care of the environment, how we can deal with the war here, this, there, and a lot of things are done. And I'm very grateful, and this is all very good. But if we really go to look deep, what is the root? Even the environmental problems. What is the root of all the environmental problems that we have? Our mind. Our unlimited attachment, our unlimited desire, our selfishness, our ignorance, that's where it's coming from. When we look at the wars, there is not one war that has not started and that was not caused by human mind. There is not one fight, there is not one conflict, there is not one couple fighting that is not starting in the mind of each one, Every conflict that we might find, every aspect of suffering that exists in this world, where it starts? In the mind of sentient beings. Even when we say, someone may say, but what about a natural disaster, like an earthquake? Was it started in human's mind? If we go more deeply, what happened is that it's the result of karma. Karma, which is action, which ripens as in the form of the earthquake, but was originally created by the actions of sentient beings, which create the karma, which is again in the mind. Okay? But if we even if we don't go into that level, we just observe the fact that every conflict that exists, it starts in human mind. And also the good things. Where do the good things come from? The moments of joy, of pleasure, of satisfaction. It's coming from love, from compassion, from wisdom, from humbleness, from peace, which are the inner qualities of the mind. So, the mind is the most powerful tool that we have in our existence. The external things are just contexts, are just like conditions through which manifest. Even poverty in this world. Are there enough resources for everyone to live comfortably or not? Of course. So what is creating poverty? The mind. What is creating fights? The mind. What is creating our environmental problems? The mind. So, the mind is where is the cause of the problems, but the mind is also where is the solution. Our mind is the most powerful tool that we have. So once we have such a powerful tool, once we understand that everything comes from the mind, the good and the bad things, as Yongzing Yeshe Gyältsän said, the defects of samsara, the negative aspects, and the qualities of nirvana, the pure things, everything without exception derives from the mind, comes from the mind, as was said in Buddha's teachings. So those with at least some minimum intelligence and discernment should give importance to knowing the secrets of the mind. Because when we understand better how our mind functions, we can start to direct it better. There is something that Rinpoche said yesterday evening, and I forgot to translate. In between there was one small part. This happened quite often. When I forget to translate something after, it comes after to my mind later. And when Rinpoche was saying, he said, he said, most of us, normally, we live our life as if we were the result of the world surrounding us. We need to do the other way around. We need to make the world surrounding us the result of ourselves. Which means we need to have the power over the phenomena, and not the phenomena have power over us. We make the things, not the things make us. This is similar to the fact of understanding that when we have no knowledge about our mind, we have no actual control over our own mind, we live just as if our mind was the result of all the conditions that are around us. I am sad because of this, I am angry because of that, so I am sad because there is a conflict. But who made the conflict? The mind. And who is being sad? The mind itself. So what happened is that normally we live as if our mind was just the result of everything happening around. And what we try to do, we try to change the world to change the mind. But the world is a result of the mind. So I am suffering because there is a conflict, so I must eliminate the conflict outside. But where is the conflict coming from? From the mind. So the cause is in the mind, the result is, the solution is also in the mind. So once we understand this, then we need to understand how the mind functions. Because by understanding how the mind functions, we can start to say, okay, here I can do this, there I can do that. We can understand better how to deal with it. This is why for me, when I first learned these teachings, how the mind functions, for me was like opening my eyes to see reality in a completely different way. It's like the inner sensation of understanding the functions of the mind is saying, now I can really have the will in my hand, you know. It's like if we are in a car before, and the car is just going somewhere, and we have no real control over the car. Then at a certain point, someone is like in a sort of autopilot before, but it's not a real autopilot. It's like the result of what is coming around. And then suddenly someone starts showing to us, oh, here is the brake. Here is where you need to accelerate. Here is where you need to shift the gears. Here you do this and that, and showing us how to use the car really. And when we start learning and we start using it, oh, now I can choose where to go. Now I have full control myself. So this is what we need to gain. We need to understand the mind in order to have control of the mind, in order to have control of our life. So, and for that reason, it's really very, very important to understand clear how our mind is functioning. Okay? And this is what Buddha explained here. And I get sometimes, I don't want to say shocked, but it is shocking to see how in our modern world we give a lot of importance for so many things. We study mathematics, we study geography, we study anatomy, we study this, that, so many things. But the most powerful tool that we have, we don't take into consideration. The mind. I believe it's so important for all of us to learn about the mind. Since childhood, actually. To learn how is the mind functioning and so on. Which doesn't need to be necessarily from the perspective of Buddhism. Also because when we take the Buddhist explanation of the mind and its functions, and we take an explanation which can be given from, for example, the psychological aspect or from the neuro-linguistic, or there are many different explanations, finally we are talking about the same thing. different way of explaining, giving different names, but very often we are talking about the same thing. Are much more the aspects that are in common than the aspects that are different. This is because when two people with a correct mind observe the same thing, they come to the same result. With different names, different way of looking, but it's the same way. So, I believe it's extremely important for us to understand better our mind. And Buddha gave very clear teachings about that. Okay? So we will try to share this in the best way as we can. Because it's a powerful tool that we use for everything else. Okay? Another thing also is that when we understand better how the mind functions, then we can understand better what is bodhicitta, how to develop. We can understand better the whole path to enlightenment. Because the whole path to enlightenment is happening where? Inside of us. So once we understand our mind, we can understand how it's possible also to follow the path of enlightenment. It makes a big difference, actually, to understand better the whole process. Okay? There are different parts of Buddha's teachings where he's talking about the mind. But there is one clear difference between the teachings that are given in the Sutra path and in the Vajrayana Tantra path of the teachings of Buddha. The main difference is that in the path of Tantra, the mind is divided into three types of mind, which is the gross mind, subtle mind, and very subtle mind, which we can find correspondence also in the Sutra, but normally it's not made such division. Okay? So I would like just first to give one explanation about the difference between gross, subtle, and very subtle mind. Okay? And then the rest of the teachings that we will go through, they refer mainly to the gross mind. So, one other important thing also together with that is that the mind always goes together with the body. So gross mind, gross body, subtle mind, subtle body, very subtle mind, very subtle body. Okay? And actually the speech also always goes together. Body, speech, and mind are always together. There is some teachings which says that the Buddhas, wherever there is the body of a Buddha, his mind is present. Wherever his mind is present, his body is present. That's why when we have representations of the bodies of the Buddha, it is also representing the mind of the Buddha at the same time. So that's why when we invite the Buddha to come with his body, we are inviting naturally to come the mind of the Buddha. It's also together with that. So, this actually is not a specific quality of the Buddhas. We are also like this. Wherever is our body, is also our mind. Okay? A corpse is not a body. It's the remaining of a body. Okay? We are talking about a functioning live body. Okay? So wherever there is body, there is the mind. Wherever there is the mind, there is also the body. So they go on different levels. So the gross body is what normally we call the body, where we have the organs, flesh, bone, blood, and so on. Okay? This is our gross body. Together with the gross body, which is influencing the gross body, comes the gross mind. The gross mind has this double effect, which is it shapes the body and it's influenced by the body. Okay? So, the gross mind is the manifested mind. The gross mind is the mind that perceives our six senses. So we have the eye sense, the ear sense power, the eye sense power, the smell sense power, the taste sense power, the touch sense power, and the mind sense power. The mind sense power is the mind consciousness, is the one that perceives memories, thoughts, ideas, projections, and so on. Okay? So, the mind that is directly perceiving our senses is what we call the gross mind, is the mind, making it simple, that is manifested. This is what we call the gross mind. Okay? Then there is also the subtle mind. The subtle mind is the mind that is there but is not manifested. To make it a simple example, let's say, in this moment, I am not angry. Okay? But this doesn't mean that I don't have anger. Right? Just bring me an object of anger and then you will see if I have anger or I don't have anger. Okay? No, maybe it's not so easy right away to find the right object of anger from me, but I can assure you that you can find it. Okay? So what happened is that it's not because I am not feeling anger that I don't have anger. So the anger that I have and that is not manifested, where is it? In the subtle mind. So the subtle mind is the aspects of the mind which are present but are not manifested. This is what we call in the Tantra the subtle mind. Okay? We have love, compassion, generosity, faith, all sorts of things, they are there, but when they are not manifested, they are part of the subtle mind. And a lot of things is happening inside of us in the subtle mind actually. And we are not aware of it, but a lot is happening inside our subtle mind. It is a very important part. The gross mind is a result of the subtle mind. But the gross mind shapes the subtle mind also. Okay? Then we have the very subtle mind. Then together with the subtle mind there is the subtle body. The subtle body is made of what we call channels, winds and drops. The channels, winds and drops is what we call the chakras. And inside the chakras we have all the different winds, which basically we can make a relation with the nervous system, our veins and arteries, and also the lymphatic system also of our body. We can also make a relation with that. And then inside of this, there is the energy that flows together. It's not only the blood. Together with the blood, there is energy that flows together with the blood, for example. Okay, which we have in the Tibetan medicine or in Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, we have the energy that flows together. In Tibetan medicine, it's called wind. In Sanskrit, it's called prana. In Chinese, it's called the chi. So it's the energy that flows together with us. So this is part of the subtle body. Okay, and then there is another type of energy that flows, but it does not flow as a constant flow, which is like the wind. It flows and it remains for sometimes in one place. That's why it's given the metaphor of a drop. So for example, the drop is an energy that it has, for example, when we have deep sleep, it goes mainly to the heart. When we are dreaming, it goes to the throat. When we are awakening, it goes to the secret chakra. This is just one example of it. Okay? So this is basically what forms our subtle body. And the subtle body is connected with the subtle mind also. One influences the other. Okay? Basically what happens is that the mind shapes the body influences the mind. This is how it's happening. For example, the body can create sickness. The mind can create a sickness in the body, but the sickness is going to influence the mind. Okay? So the mind is the one shaping the body, but the body is influencing also the mind. The same way the gross mind shapes the subtle mind, but the subtle mind is the one that influences the gross mind. Okay? Then we have the very subtle mind. The very subtle mind is a mental state that has one other thing I forgot to say. The subtle mind is connected very much to what we call our emotions, non-manifested emotions. And in Tibetan, there is no specific word for emotion. It's very interesting because we have a very rich way of explaining the mind, but at no point we have the word emotions. We have the word for each and every specific emotions. There is love, there is happiness, there is sadness, there is suffering, there is aversion, and so on. But there is no specific word for emotions as a whole. Okay? But because even in our Western world, the word emotion have changed a lot meaning in the past decades. If we go in the history of the world, there were different meanings in time. Okay? And I read one time there was a study which was made by one university professor, I think from United States, where he was making the comparative study about the meaning of the word, how to translate the word emotion in Tibetan. And there is no translation. And he was talking about this. Quite interesting. But this is to say that we have all the different emotions, but we have no any specific word for emotions. That's why whenever we talk about mind in the context of Buddhist teachings, the emotions is also there. We have the tendency in our Western world to divide mind and emotion. Okay? We divide like the part, like cognitive, logical part and the emotional part. In Buddhism, when we say mind, we refer to both. Mind is both there. There is the cognitive part, emotional part, everything is there. Okay? And we will see when we go to learn more about how the mind works, we have both aspects there. Cognitive aspects, emotional aspects, all of them are there together. So the subtle mind, it's mainly the aspects of the mind which are not manifested, such as our emotions. Most of them are like emotional aspects such as love and compassion or wisdom or hatred, aversion. And the emotions are based on attraction and aversion. Okay? The very subtle mind is a state of mind that is free from the cognitive, is a non-cognitive state of mind, and a non-emotional state of mind also. The very subtle mind is a state of mind that has no attraction or aversion. Okay? It's a state of mind which is a neutral state of mind on which are the imprints of all the emotions and memories and understanding and experiences of life. So, the very subtle mind is where we have like the seeds, where we have the imprints of every thought, of every action, of every experience, of every emotion. They are there. So it's like the very subtle mind is the one that goes from one life to the other. The very subtle mind is the one that continues after death and goes to the next rebirth. And it's where are the imprints of every emotion, of every thought, of every action that we do. The imprints of this are in the very subtle mind. The very subtle mind is like where there are seeds. Then when these seeds manifest, it manifests as the subtle mind and as the very subtle, as the gross mind. Okay? So in other words, we can say, let's imagine like this. The very subtle mind is like a nucleus. Okay? You say nucleus in English, I think, no? It's like a nucleus. Then the subtle mind is like many layers around it. And the gross mind is even much more layers around it again. Okay? The nucleus have lights and colors manifesting. Okay? So what is manifesting from the center, from the nucleus, it is manifesting on the different layers. Okay? So, what manifests in the upper layers is a result of what is coming from the nucleus, the colors and the shapes and so on. But as we go on with the layers, what you see in the final layers is a result of what comes from the center, but it's also shaped by all the layers in between. Okay? But it's manifesting from the very center. So what happens is that when we work from the gross level, we need to first change the gross mind, so we go layer by layer, until we can get to the most deep state of consciousness in the very subtle mind. But the external layer influences, shapes the internal layers. So the gross mind shapes the subtle mind. Depending on what I say, depending on what I think, I shape my emotions in a deeper level. Depending on the way how I act more deeper level, it shapes my very subtle mind. It changes also the imprints from one life to the other. In other words, we can say like this. The gross mind manifests the subtle mind manifests the very subtle mind. Okay? But at the same time, the gross mind shapes the subtle mind and the subtle mind shapes the very subtle mind. So, if we put in another words is, this gross mind is a result of the subtle mind is a result of the very subtle mind. But the gross mind is the one that can change the subtle mind, and the subtle mind is the one that can change the very subtle mind. Okay? So that's why by working on the gross level, we can change the subtle and we can change the very subtle. Okay? But if we do not make a change in the very subtle, the only change in the gross level will not be enough. So we need to change the gross level in order to change the subtle level of our mind. Okay? Then there are practices in Tantra which has the objective to go directly to the subtle and very subtle mind and make the change. But this is another subject. It's not for today. Okay? So this is the three divisions of the mind: gross, subtle, and very subtle mind. And during these teachings that we are going to see these next days, we are going to see mainly how the gross mind functions, how to deal and understand our gross mind, which is already a lot. Some people may think, oh no, but all I want to know is more, let's go directly to the more deep mind, the subtle mind. Start with the gross mind. If you're not able to control and to direct the gross mind, forget about doing it with the subtle mind, okay? So first we need to learn how to do it with the gross mind, then we can learn how to do it with the subtle mind, and so on. And it's not that complicated, it's not that impossible. It is actually very much possible, okay? And we will go through details of this all these next days together, okay? So, I would like just to read briefly this explanation I gave here, and then we would go through, just conclude this part of introduction. And it says, awareness is the definition of mind. Clear and aware is the definition of consciousness. Mind, awareness, and consciousness are synonymous. In other words, the mind is luminous and cognitive, or clear and knowing. It is luminous because it is always active. There is never a moment when the mind is in the dark, or rather, doesn't have thoughts. It is cognitive or knowing because it always has an object of perception that it apprehends. There are many ways to classify the gross mind. Okay, this is another part. So what does this mean here? The definition of the mind, which is something very difficult to do actually, even in our modern science, one of the very difficult things to do is to give a satisfying definition of the mind. You know, and so the definition of the mind here, it is that it's sälwar rikpa in Tibetan, which means clear and cognitive. Clear and cognitive, or clear and aware. What does that mean? Clear means that it's like light. It's always there. There is no any moment of darkness of the mind. The mind never stops functioning. We cannot turn off the mind. Some of us would like to turn off the mind, but it's not possible, okay? Even when we die, the mind continues from life after life. And the mind is cognitive in the sense that the mind always have an object of perception. The mind is always perceiving something. So the mind is something that is always present, and that is the mind is the one that experiences and perceives existence. That experience and perceives existence is the mind. So, even when we say, oh, you need to empty the mind of every thought, think about nothing. Nothing becomes something when we think about it, okay? So there is always an object of perception in the mind. We can stop the mind from wandering around, and we can rest in the present moment in many beautiful ways, but we are always thinking about something. The mind always has an object of perception, every time, all the moment. Okay? So this is to understand originally these two aspects of the mind. The mind is always present, and the mind has always an object of perception. The mind always works with an object of perception. Okay. Basically, there are 6 different types of objects of perception, which is form that we see, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental objects, which we call generalized meanings, memories, ideas, and so on. Okay? So, these are the objects of the mind. Now, to understand the mind, there are different ways how the mind can be classified, how we can explain the mind. So here I have written, there are many ways to classify the gross mind, such as into categories of 7 or 2. The classification into 7 is in terms of valid and non-valid cognition, as we can see in Appendix A. There are several classifications into 2, including in terms of dominant condition, as in Appendix B, or as we see here in terms of nature. Okay? What we are going to see as we will go through these days is how the mind is classified in terms of nature. So what does that mean? First of all, the different ways of classifying the mind are not contradictory. They are complementary. They are talking about the same mind, it's just different explanations of the mind. So when we talk in terms of nature, to understand it better, let's make a metaphor of, which for me is the one of the metaphor that works well. Let's say we need to cook a dish. Okay? We are in Italy, so let's talk about making spaghetti with tomato sauce. Okay? If we are going to make spaghetti with tomato sauce, we need pasta, we need the spaghetti, we need tomato, we need salt, we need olive oil. This is the basic ingredients to make the spaghetti. Okay? So, the spaghetti cannot exist without the ingredients. I cannot have spaghetti without pasta. Or I cannot have spaghetti al sugo with tomato sauce without tomato. That's also not working, okay? Even though nowadays some people make like spaghetti of carrots. That's not spaghetti, I'm sorry. Okay? That it looks like spaghetti because they cut the carrots in a very fine thing. Or I don't know where I was some time ago, and then a restaurant, then they said, oh, spaghetti of zucchini. Then we were expecting some nice spaghetti with zucchini. No, or zucchini cut it like spaghetti. That's not spaghetti, come on. It's like calling a dog a lion. And I said, oh, where is my lion? But it's just a dog, but I called him a lion, you know. It's the same way. If I take zucchini and I cut small and I say it's a spaghetti, it's not. Okay, anyhow. The point what I want to say is that in order to have spaghetti with tomato sauce, I need to have all the ingredients, right? So what are the basic ingredients I need? Spaghetti, tomato, let's say I need salt and I need olive oil. Okay? So what happened is that the ingredient of the spaghetti does not exist independently of the spaghetti. If I go and I look, oh, does the tomato of the spaghetti exist independently of the spaghetti? No. It's like saying we are a group of persons. The group only exists because each individual is there. But each individual only exists as a part of the group because the group exists. Okay? So the parts and the unity are of the same nature. The people that form the group and the group, they are of the same nature. One cannot exist separately from the other. I can exist as an individual, but I do not exist as a member of the group independently of the group. Okay? The tomato can exist as an individual separate ingredient, but it does not exist as an ingredient of the spaghetti without the whole spaghetti existing. Okay? Similar to that, we have what is called the primary mind and the mental factors. The primary mind is like the spaghetti with tomato sauce. It's like the actual dish or the whole group. The mental factors are all the ingredients. So we have one primary mind, and this primary mind has many ingredients. We have 5 main ingredients that must always be there. Without these 5 ingredients, it's not possible to make the dish. It's not possible to have a spaghetti with tomato sauce without tomato and spaghetti. Okay? I can try to make it with butter instead of olive oil and so on. Would not come so nice, but still, I must have tomato and pasta at least. No? So, similar to that, there are 5 main ingredients that every primary mind must have, which are what we call the 5 omnipresent mental factors. Okay? Then there are many other ingredients that we can add. It's like we can make the pasta, we can add some chili, we can put some caperi, or if we like, we can put maybe some olive, or we can put this or that. But these are extra. And each one of us, we can make a different dish according to the ingredients we choose to put inside. Okay? So, a good cook is the one that knows every ingredient so well that he knows how to put the ingredients together to make a nice dish. If you don't know the ingredients and you don't know what's the result of them, how it would taste, how can you make a dish, no? So, to understand our mind is like understanding the different ingredients. So, the primary mind is the actual dish. And the mental factors are the ingredients. So Buddha explained mainly 51 ingredients. Okay? We are never using all of them at once, but there are 51 ingredients that we have in the kitchen of our mind, let's say. Then we can make different dishes that we do every day. Then we can choose which of the ingredients we are going to use. There are 5 ingredients that are always used, which are the first things that we will see tomorrow. Then there are all the other ingredients that we can use or not. But once we start understanding them, then we can choose. Otherwise, let's say we have a dish of pasta and we say, oh, it's too salty. Then we need to throw the whole dish away. No. We just need to take away a little bit of the salt. Once we know how to use the ingredients, we can change, and we can just, by changing one ingredient, we change the whole dish. So, that's why we need to understand the aspects of our mind. So with that, in page number 50, we have one appendix which we will see tomorrow without entering into details upon it, okay? Because the emphasis is in the 51 mental factors. But we will go through this appendix, which is the 7 types of primary mind. The primary mind, or the main dishes, is divided into 7 types of primary mind. And that each one of this is composed by many different mental factors. Okay? So, it is very useful because when we start classifying the mind and understanding, then we start to say, oh, here I'm going to have, this is the direct perception. This is an inferential cognition. Oh, that's an assumption. This is that we can start dividing and understanding how our mind works. And each one of this primary mind is made of many different mental factors, which are called like the ingredients that form the mind. We can have different groups, and each group is made of many individuals. So we need to understand what are the general groups, and then we learn what are the qualities of every individual, so we can make the groups with a more freedom. In other words, we can learn there are 7 main dishes, and we have 51 ingredients. So how can we make each one of these dishes in the best way? And so this gives us a lot of freedom, somehow. Okay, I think it's quite clear with this metaphor, no? Okay, so we will conclude now here. And then tomorrow we will first see this, and then we go through the mental factors. Okay? Jetson lame kutse rapten chi namkar chinle chochur gepadang losan tempe drume sasumgi drove musel tatu ne gyurchi Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shing Nintsen taktu delek pe koncho sumke jingi lo Koncho sumke ngodrup tsol Koncho sumke trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.